peek into heaven. And that when you peek into heaven, she says, see what's going on there and start making it happen in the here and now. And she says, if you can do that, then indeed, all the way to heaven will be heaven. And so if we peek into heaven, what do we see? We see people giving thanks. We see angels and saints giving praise. It's giving thanks and praise to God. That's what goes on in the place that we call heaven. And so therefore, what Catherine of Siena is suggesting, if we can bring gratitude and praise into our lives in the here and now, we begin to get a taste of heaven. Now, you would not necessarily think that our happiness depends upon the degree of our gratefulness. But I want to suggest that there is scientific data that shows that, in fact, there is a correlation between the two. Psychology has long concerned itself with the human mind and what goes on in the human mind. And psychology talks about things such as neuroses and repression, etc. Now, over the last decade or so, psychology has concerned itself with a very elusive question. And the question is, what makes us happy? And there have been a number of studies that have been done in recent years about what makes us happy. And what I found most interesting, and it was this really that put me on this, what I like to call this gratitude path, was this. It was not riches, and it wasn't even the human genes that were naturally disposed to making us happy that brings happiness about. And for a long time, I thought that was the case. I thought some people are just naturally disposed to happiness, right? Or that if you had good fortune, of course you would be happy. But the more I thought about it, that's really erroneous thinking. Because as the studies have pointed out, and this I think is really compelling, it is gratitude. Study after study shows that the one ingredient is gratitude. People that are grateful are very happy, and that there is this correlation between the two. And the studies bear this out. And this is what got me interested in the topic. Now, as I begin by looking to my own personal experience, it would be this. I don't think that most of us are naturally disposed to gratitude. Why? We live in a very fast-paced culture. We live in a culture and we live in a time where very often we become very problem-oriented, solving problems. And sometimes we begin to look at life in that way. Life then becomes a problem to be solved rather than a mystery to be lived, you see. And so we're kind of, in a sense, wired in this way. And that's why when we start talking about gratitude, I like to suggest it requires a conversion on our part to begin to look at life differently. And so an example that I always like to use is this, that, for example, as a teacher, if I have 25 students in a class and say 24 of them write positive evaluations and one writes a negative evaluation, I have the tendency to think about the one who wrote the negative and to forget the 24 who wrote or said positive things. Very often we think in this way, all right? And I call this negative thinking. Now, there is a power, I believe, in thank you. There is a power in gratitude, because thank you and gratitude pulls us out of our negativity. It pulls us out of our stress. It pulls us back into those things that are really important. It stops us it stops us in our tracks and says, what is life really all about? And once we begin to understand that and we're willing to take a second look and we start talking about gratitude, I want to suggest that the practice of gratitude is a part of every major religion. Every major religion understands that in some way gratitude is at the heart of the religious or the spiritual heart. To tie this into a wider culture today, people